ideas other than to say that people are upset and need a revolution, which I think is pretty well understood. What he failed to mention is that Bitcoin is really that revolution. It started in 2009, and it contains within the Bitcoin protocol the seed of the revolution. I call it the currency of the resistance. It allows people, for example, in Greece or other countries, to create their own economy in ways that they want their economy to work for them, outside of a centrally controlled, centrally planned economy like you have in Britain or you have in the United States, controlled by kleptocrats. It completely avoids all of that. So I would hope that somebody like Russell Brand or somebody like this who has the eye of the media to step into the Bitcoin arena, which I think this will happen shortly. And then you'll see Bitcoin trading at 1,000, 2,000, 5,000, 10,000. Rick Falkvinia does an excellent analysis. He predicts that Bitcoin will capture between 1 and 10% of the global Forex market, which implies a price of between $100,000 to $1 million per Bitcoin.
Speaking of the price rising, this is in the next headline here from a hedge funder. Fortress's Novogratz says Bitcoin will be, quote, worth a lot. And this is Michael Novogratz. He's the chief investment officer for Fortress Investment Group, which is a $55 billion hedge fund. And he says, put a little money in Bitcoin, come back in a few years, and it's going to be worth a lot.
Right. Well, we became aware of Bitcoin when it was about $1 a Bitcoin. We recommended it to viewers of Kaiser Report when it was $5 a Bitcoin. It's now trading close to $200 a Bitcoin. It's been the best performing asset in the world, bar none. But this Fortress gentleman mentions he's a hedge fund and a private equity fund manager, and he understands that Bitcoin is now an asset class. Stocks, bonds, gold, silver, real estate, Bitcoin. It is an asset class. So every single one of those 10,000 hedge funds in the world who control trillions of dollars will need exposure to Bitcoin if they want to remain competitive. That's the bottom line. So these hedge funds will start nibbling into Bitcoin, and of course Barry Silbert's second market in New York has the Bitcoin Investment Trust, or BIT, that makes it easier for them to buy into Bitcoin. They will start outperforming their peers, and then their peers will have to get into Bitcoin as an asset class, and that's when you'll see the move into 5 and 6 digits.
Now, Novogratz says the reason why he sees it becoming worth so much is because of it growing as a payment system, displacing credit cards and PayPal and the likes of this, especially in the developing world, he says. So this is what we see in this next headline, Bitcoin Currency 2.0, and this is from Deloitte. And they mention the fact that it is growing widely across Kenya. For example, it's being integrated with the M-Pesa system, which is already a system of paying for goods and services with a mobile phone. So Bitcoin is being integrated into that system. In China, you have Baidu accepting Bitcoin. So they already have a mentality not part of this sort of feudal system where only the lords of banking can tell you what you're allowed to spend and how much interest and blah, blah, blah you're allowed to spend. But so they look at what happens when it gets adopted here in the West, Bitcoin. If Bitcoin were to achieve the mainstream adoption some believe it is capable of, the implications to retail banking would be seismic, with declining demand for traditional banking services like cash storage, payment, balance checks, international transfers, and a foreign exchange, to name a few.
Right. Well, there's one empire in the world, the American empire. It's backed by the U.S. dollar, and the U.S. dollar is 60% of all global transactions, and commodities like oil are traded in dollars and other commodities. And this dollar is backed by the U.S. military. And in places like Africa, where they're trying to control the oil, which controls the U.S. dollar and funds the U.S. military, there's an enormous warfare going on, sponsored by American operatives like the CIA and these other folks, to keep the petrodollar alive and well. So Africa naturally wants to be decolonized from the American empire and the other of these states, China as well, by adopting Bitcoin. So Bitcoin is really the currency of the resistance and the revolution. This is what I think Russell Brand has failed to see, or all the other celebrity pundits have failed to see, the revolutionary aspect of Bitcoin. So it's great for Africa. People in China who are worried about the dollar being debased by all the quantitative easing happening in the U.S. are flocking into Bitcoin. We see the same thing in India. We see the same thing in Venezuela. We see the same thing in Cyprus, famously, when their currency collapsed and they poured into Bitcoin and the price skyrocketed.